Hi everyone, Joshua Kirk here with you once again. Now it's time for episode 122 of Album of the Day, in which, today, I'm going to be reviewing an artist that, not a lot of you people have probably heard of, but, just really felt the need to want to tell you guys about this band because they got something going on that I think is, really that I think is, great and, and think they're very talented, and I definitely do think more people should be able to check out this band right about now. And they're signed to a label that's been longtime supporters of me and my channel. That is the independent, non-genre specific label from North Carolina known as Yep Rock Records. I've been an honorary completist of Yep Rock Records since mid-summer 2015, which means they've been sending me every single record they've been dropping, in a year pretty much. This is one that I will be talking about today. So, because there's still plenty of albums on that label that I do want to review here that came out this year that I think, you guys should take more notice of. So I kind of thought, what's the first artist I should review? Oh, that I found the one, and the band I'm talking about is the New York band known as Jeremy and the Harlequins. Been around since like the mid-2010s or something like that. Released their self-released debut album in 2014, American Dreamer, which, Yep Rock actually sent me the CD copy of that a few months ago, a couple of months before the release of this new album of theirs I'm going to talk about, and I was very impressed with that album. Great album with, very emotive and just, very just passionate vocals from frontman Jeremy Fury, and some great lyrics that really do have some great storytelling to them, and also some pretty awesome energy and performances. The production on it was pretty raw, kind of scrappy and rough around the edges, but still was definitely very well produced, and the performances were just very and also the performances were definitely very intricate. What I like about this band is they're not quite totally indie rock, not quite totally pop rock. They're kind of somewhere in between. They're kind of a genre-less band, meaning you can't really label them as indie or rock or anything like that. It's kind of like another band that I would describe as genre-less, meaning you can't really label them anything. Would have to be Lake Street Dive, or something like that. But anyway, aside from that, why don't I just, get on and, talk about the album. And talk about this new album of theirs that they put out. Released in August, of this year, recently sent to me by Yep Rock. The album is called Into the Night. And, of course, this is their Yep Rock Records debut following their self-released debut, which did receive a little bit of a cult following. And, of course, the song Trip Into the Light was featured on the Tom Cruise movie Edge of Tomorrow. This is the album cover for Into the Night, which I definitely do think the band's probably going to get a little more notice around this. But, Yep Rock's albums still kind of have to, still need a little more, notice, I think. Photos of all 5 band members, Jeremy Fury on vocals, Craig Bone on guitar, Bobby Ever on bass, Patrick Meyer on guitar, and Stevie Fury on drums. The liner notes are under there, of course. And there's the lyrics in there, and the thank yous are underneath it. So yeah, that's the CD of Into the Night, the new album from Jeremy and the Harlequins. Now, let's talk a little bit more about this album. Is I will I would say this. Is this album better than American Dreamer? No, but does this album build upon American Dreamer? Yes, it definitely does. In terms of American Dreamer was a great record, but I feel this record even kind of improves upon it a little bit in terms of the lyrics, or or maybe the production as well. The production's a little less rough on here, I will admit. The production on here is a little less rough, I will admit, on here. And also, it seems the band is becoming more and more confident pretty much here this time around. Because, pretty much, I like how they're pretty much avoiding that whole, trend of sophomore slump that unfortunately comes through in a lot of new indie bands out there, pretty much, where, mostly because, they just kind of, some bands tend to sort of tend to rehash what they've done on their last album or something like that, but there are times where the second albums are even better than the first records, by artists, sometimes, for example, Father John Misty's I Love You Honey Bear, great album, really built upon Fear Fun in a really big way, and I think that record is actually better than Fear Fun, I will admit. And some bands tend to build upon their debut album with a fantastic second record, either because their first album probably wasn't the greatest. Like, for example, I will tell you, I'm not really crazy about the first Alabama Shakes record. I don't think it really lives up to the widespread acclaim it's gotten. That album is kind of overrated, but I loved their second album, Sound and Color, and that one kind of lived up to the hype, so, but yeah, anyway, aside from that, let's just talk more about the album we're covering here, okay? So, the album opens up with the title track, Into the Night, and I think it's a great opener for the album because I like how, it opens the album in a really optimistic way. But, in a way that's, also, definitely very genuine and, isn't, optimistic in a cheesy way or anything like that. The lyrics on here sort of talk about, this man's, lonely and stuff like that, but, he's got a, picture of, his loved one, in his car, pretty much, and, he, turned, but yet he's still very optimistic, and he, turns up the radio, and, Elvis, and him and Elvis are, singing at the top of their lungs, his lungs, and also, talking about, how, I've been through hard times and stuff like that, but, I'm just gonna keep, I'm just gonna keep driving deeper into the night, because everything will be alright. Following that is the song No One Cares. So, I do like, how kind of optimistic, the opening track on here is. As well as, the performances on that track are great, the kind of, twangy guitars, and also, Jeremy's vocal performance. Jeremy Fury just has so much vocal power, I will admit. It's definitely one thing that definitely drives pretty much the band together, pretty much, is Jeremy Fury's, voice. Then we have the song No One Cares, which, lyrically the song sort of talks about how, Jeremy's he's been around for a while, but, he still kind of feels like a stranger, because, very few people know his name, and, he hasn't had any love, or, any fame or anything like that, so he, tries to sell his soul to the gods of rock and roll, but then eventually he realizes that, it's just overstocked with squares, and who really cares anyway. And he also mentions how his significant other, pretty much has gone through the same thing, where she's from or something like that. And they both, kind of realize that, if it isn't theirs, well then, no one cares. Here's in this song, and this song definitely has some pretty good swagger to it. I like the kind of groovy guitars and drums on the track, as well as a really nice blaring harmonica pops up in the bridge of the song as well. And then we have the song "Rhythm Don't Lie," which is has this incredibly sexy bass line on it, that I really like on there, as well as some kind of as well as some kind of swingy guitars and drums, and mentioning how and he basically talks about this it's and he seems to have this sort of affection for this girl pretty much that in some sort of in some sort of club or something like that who is who he can tell what she wants from the way she tosses his hair pretty much, and he seems to have just some pretty strong feelings about this person, but but then eventually he eventually finds out that she doesn't want him around, and he's like, well, why did you tear my heart in two? And he's like, and he talks about turning the music loud to hide his wailing cry pretty much. So yeah, it's kind of so yeah, it's kind of a song kind of deals with that, which and I think it pairs pretty snugly with its kind of swing sort of laced instrumentation. Then we have the song "For Angels," really gorgeous ballad that sort of one of the sadder songs in the album. Sort of talks about how talks about this person that that was such an important person in Jeremy's life, who just recently was killed in a car accident, and he basically talks about how he cares so much about him, and how on the day that that Chevy took her life, on the day that Chevy took that person's life, and talking about how that affected him in so many ways, because he can't stop thinking about her, and is and he kind of and he kind of wishes that he kept on sleeping, because because he's got so many pretty rough things going on in his life, and so it's kind of a heartbreaking song, but at the same time still kind of optimistic as well. And Jeremy's vocal performance on this thing just makes it just that much more powerful. I mean, I don't know this person that he's lost in his life, but it's definitely such a it really just, that song just really hits me in the feels whenever I listen to it, with Jeremy's very emotive performance on this song is incredible. Musically, this song, it helps bring some optimism to the table. It's got kind of this Latin flavor to it, and has these really gorgeous string arrangements and bells that are worked into the song as well, to pair with its rock instrumentation, which shows the band trying out new things, building upon their last album by incorporating some extra instrumentation at a few moments in here, and still making it sound great on here. We have the song "Let Her Run," which kind of song, that deals with, this guy who, recently, who talks about, this guy who, he like, gets that unexpected call, and like, and like, he notices that, this person talking to him on the phone obviously is somebody that's like, trying to lie to him, being like, I've met somebody else, but baby, thanks for it all. And like, talks about, how, how she loves him, and, that person kind of wonders why, and because it kind of sounds like a lie. And then he kind of realizes that it is a lie, pretty much. And like, one day he like gets off work late. He gets off work 7 hours late. And like, and the girl says, "I know you've been drinking," but he says, "Baby, have some faith." And then he realizes that, she was lying all along, because, she's pretty, mad at him, him pretty much, and, eventually, she, like, walks out on him, but, it mentioned, but, Jeremy's sort of saying this guy, hey, this girl might have, walked out on you, but, just let her run, because, she's not treating you that great, and, great, it's gonna be okay without her in sight, because, because you won't be treated, poorly like you were, before. And the song, has also some, kind of, and the song, has kind of a soul flavor, I will admit, with the B3 organ laced into the track, as well as the guitars have kind of a soulful feel to it as well. So, the band definitely has a lot of versatility with their music, too, if you listen to all the sounds that they've incorporated into both the albums they've put out. We have the song Big Beat, which, is this kind of fun, sort of, two-step kind of, number that talks about, how, everybody in this world, is bopping and rocking to that same big beat. And, pretty much, and like, Jeremy seems to, seems to sound maybe a little, sick of that, pretty much. I'll have to read more of the lyrics to tell you a little more about the lyrics of this song. And like, and talking about how, that's just kind of the way it is, no matter what the weather, one thing is concrete. Everybody's walking to the same big beat. Pretty much. And like, and he also sort of talks about a girl that kind of, at a bar that kind of, and he just kind of asks her, like, what's your name, stuff like that, and she says, she told him, if he played his game, he won, but, I won, but she showed me that little cheat. Everybody ain't so sweet. Sort of, sort of fits in with sort of, the concept of this album a little bit, in terms of the lyrical content. This song, and so, excuse me, and I like how one point in the song there's like this, sort of like little, dialogue that, goes on at one point in the song that I think is pretty funny, where, Patrick's like, everybody's walking the same big beat, and Jeremy's like, you want to know? And the band's like, yeah. I thought that was pretty entertaining to hear that incorporated into the song. And the instrumentation, musically the song is pretty fun, and, it features this kind of chunky baritone saxophone, as well as this really scuzzy sax solo in the middle of the track, too, that I thought sounded really awesome on there. And also, there's kind of this, deep voice, and also there's this kind of deep vocal of, everybody, it's so sweet. Which I thought sounded, pretty nice on there too. So it's kind of, a song that, so yeah, it's definitely a very fun song musically. Yeah, musically for sure. Then we have the song Drinking by Myself, which is a boozy little kind of anthem. It's kind of, so it's kind of a boozy little, boozy little anthem that I bet you, if the world is close to ending, I bet you there are probably going to be some pubs that would probably blast this song, because it would fit in that kind of situation, considering it's a song about, he's talking about, when, when the waters rise up and stuff like that, I'm still gonna be, having fun, and I'm gonna be drinking by myself, so it is a little melancholy, but at the same time, it's still pretty optimistic at the same time. So it's a little absurd, but I do like that about this song, and yeah, it's definitely a good. I think this song would definitely make sense if it were played in some sort of pub while pub. I mean, this would makes. I mean, this is definitely the kind of song that would make sense for someone downing a few drinks. That's for sure. But in a pretty self-aware way, which I think is refreshing. The song Critical Condition has this kind of Latin, kind of Tex-Mex flavor going on to the instrumental. They're not just embodying it in, the notes, or they're not just embodying it in notes or anything like that, but they're also embodying that in sound with this track, incorporating this trumpets, incorporating a trumpet into the bridge, as well as some claves and castanets on the track too, which I think sound really nice on there. But what really makes this song quite entertaining are the lyrics. Jeremy talks about meeting this old guy in a bar, he said, who says, protect your heart, kid. Don't leave your guard wide open. When I was your age, I heard the same petition. But I didn't listen. Now I'm in critical condition. And then eventually he meets this girl, pretty much, and he notices, and he's like, what a funny position, being in critical condition, when he, finds like the girl of his dreams or something like that. And then eventually the girl passes away, and then eventually in the end, he realizes that, now he's in critical condition a little bit too, just, more in a mental way, not really in a health or, kind of, where he has kind of a hard time, listening sometimes. The following song, There's a Girl, probably my least favorite song on the album. The instrumental's maybe a little too bubbly for my taste. That's probably the main criticism I have with this track. Like the glockenspiel incorporated in there never really did, doesn't really do that much for me. It's, I kind of have the same issue with the lyrics on this song. It's, definitely kind of, kind of makes sense that even really great albums have a weak moment in there. But the closer, Oh Yeah, I Did It Again, does close out the album on a pretty positive note with some, it's kind of woozy and pretty much, there are songs on here like Critical Condition and this song that kind of have a woozy kind of, instrumental, but, this one has a little more, maybe a jazzy kind of flavor to it as well. It does close out the album on a pretty good note. Although not my favorite song on the album. So yeah, I really like this album. I mean, it's definitely a record that I definitely do think, if I were to make a list of artists that you should know in 2016, this band would definitely be up there, as well as people like Xenia Rubinos or Anderson .Paak or something like that. So many, very talented, great artists that I've discovered this year. in 2016 that I think are kind of underrated and deserve a little more respect. And Jeremy and the Harlequins are definitely up there. So I'm feeling a strong 8 to a light 9 on this new Jeremy and the Harlequins album, Into the Night. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of my review for this record. And I'll see you for episode 123.